Hey everyone, this is just a continuation of the last video. In the last video I showed you how to identify if you have mains hum and what causes it. And in this video I'm going to show you how to minimize it. Don't be too worried about the circuit, it's pretty simple. I'll show you the inside of my filter first and then I'll show you the schematic. So inside you can see there's this big reel thing, that's an inductor. And these two capacitors, and there's a couple of diodes as well inside. It's pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to actually wire that up. So I'll just show you the circuit. Basically, you've got your plus and minus that comes out of the power pack, and off that, basically inside from my understanding, inside the power pack there should be a rectifier with using diodes that actually rectify the output so that it comes out flat, but a lot of the cheap guitar pedal power packs don't have that rectifier. So at the beginning of this circuit I've put in some rectification, and it's basically just two diodes. One of them's facing like that and the other one goes down to ground and is facing like that. I think half of the power filtering actually comes just from those two diodes. The diodes I used was 1N581. I think you can use 17, 18 or 19. Any of those will work. I'm going to show you a link to the actual project files for this, so don't worry too much if you can't see what's going on. You'll see the Vero layout and it shows how the components are orientated anyway. So that's the first thing. I tried full wave rectification. I didn't find much difference between half wave and full wave, so I left out the other two diodes because it also made a bit of a voltage drop, which obviously you don't want too much of a voltage drop at the other end of the filter, otherwise the voltage going into your power, into your pedals will be less than 9 volts. The actual voltage drop on the output of the filter is 0.04 of a volt. That's what I measured, which is negligible. It's nothing. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. But if you use these diodes, 1N58, 17, 18 or 19, you won't get a big voltage drop. If you use other diodes, you might get them. So that's why I've recommended using those diodes. So that's the first part. The second part, when I was doing research on how to actually filter out this noise, I found a few ways of doing it. And the next thing in the chain is a electrolytic capacitor. So you put a capacitor like this and you'd have the plus at the top. And for that value I used 470 microfarads. I found that was pretty good. And then I've got an inductor, but the inductor didn't really make, theoretically it should have made some difference to the filtering. I didn't find much difference at all. That was the big round thing inside the power filter. You could actually make the power filter even smaller if you didn't include the inductor, and I'd probably recommend, unless you've got one lying around, don't bother using it. The only reason I put mine is because it cost me $5 and I thought I'm just going to chuck it in anyway. It might make a difference. I couldn't hear a perceivable difference changing between inductor and no inductor, so I don't think I'd recommend the inductor, to be honest. If you don't put an inductor in, just put in a 100 ohm resistor and then put another electrolytic capacitor on the other side, same value, 470 microfarads. If you are familiar with the Beavis Audio website, he's actually got a huminator, which is essentially very similar to this. I don't think he doesn't have two diodes, he's only got one, and he doesn't have two capacitors, he's only got one. I found a huge difference putting in those the extra diode and the extra capacitor, bringing this up to nearly one millifarad. It made a big difference, and yeah, I really recommend including the second second capacitor of that value. So basically that's it. Then you've just got, it just continues on. You've got the plus and the minus, and that goes off to your effects. So your effects pedals are off that. So it's a pretty straightforward circuit. You can do it all on Vero board. I'll show you a Vero layout in a moment. And yeah, it does a great job of filtering the noise out. I'll just explain how I actually connect it up as well. I was a bit stumped with how I was going to do that. Basically, you can't get a jack with that barrel, that DC powered barrel on the end of it. Like it wouldn't, so it sort of looks like these, except it has a barrel on the end of it. I don't think they exist, or they're hard to find. So what I did was, I've got a socket on one side, that's straightforward. The DC from the power pack goes into that side like that, and so just pretend that that goes off to your power pack. So that's easy enough. And then on the other end I've got this little adapter, which is just two DC power plugs, the 2.1mm DC power plugs, just wired back to back, and that goes in to change the socket to the barrel, so that on your daisy chain, which you use to hook up all your pedals, because you've got that end on the daisy chain, so you can just plug that into the end of the adapter, and that'll get you to the daisy chain connection. I don't know if you can get a daisy chain that actually has a barrel on the end of it. That you could do that as well, so then you can just go straight in. But if you can't find that, just make this adapter. It's easy enough to make. So you can connect your power onto the end of that, and that's it. And then you just leave that at the front of your power chain. I mean, I just pretty much have it on all the time. There's no reason not to use it. All it's going to do is benefit the power coming from the wall. It just cleans it up quite a bit, as you probably saw in the last video. It does a pretty good job. So I'll just show you some of the information. I started a thread about if you want to read more, if you want some photos and some more explanations, it might help. So you'll need to get onto the MadBean forum, as I mentioned before, and the thread is under member area, member projects and tutorials, and the power palette. I just called it the power palette. That was my name for it. And you'll see that there's the thread here. And there's a sound clip, although you won't need to hear that because you probably saw it in the last video. PCB layout if you need it, component positions for the PCB layout, a photograph of what I was just explaining before about how I've connected it up, a photograph of the inside, and just how it all connects together. And a bit further down you can see there's the power palette Vero layout, and as you can see it's very small. It's just two tracks of Vero with all the diodes connected up, as I was showing you before. Just make sure you cut that track where that red dot is, and if you use a resistor, the resistor goes over the top like that. So that's it. That's how I've filtered out my power. It's saved me from having to buy a $200 Voodoo Labs, that's for sure. A Voodoo Labs would probably do a better job regulating it. As I said before, it filters out most of the noise. I've never used a Voodoo Labs. I'm just assuming that it actually filters out 100% of the noise. I don't know, but it still does. It still filters out a large majority of the noise, and it makes some pedals that are pretty much unusable usable again. So good luck with that, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.